Okay. Thank you very much. I'm here with Karen Abuzayd. I'm very happy because she returned to the Commission after 1 year working with the Secretary General in the Refugee Summit. Then I will say something about what we did at the Security Council in Arya Formula. I was very glad that yesterday we had breakfast with Arya himself, Ambassador Diego Arya. It was very agreeable to meet the Arya in person. Parties to the Syrian war continue to put their interests ahead of those of the civilian population. In fact, more often than not, they use military tactics that directly target civilians as a way to gain military advantage. The Commission found that all parties, we always repeat this, all warring parties committed violations during the siege and the fall of Aleppo. The siege eventually ended when the parties agreed to a so-called evacuation agreement that emptied eastern Aleppo of all the population. The siege of Aleppo is over, but what happened there is having repercussions across Syria. Several other evacuation agreements have taken place after Aleppo, resulting in tens of thousands of civilians moving to Idlib and western Aleppo province where they live in dire conditions. We have the impression that we are seeing in a slow motion something that will happen, a disaster that will happen in Idlib, and we are afraid that these populations being concentrated there, they are under serious risk about their lives. But Aleppo has also resulted in further radicalization of some armed groups. One of the new formations, Ait Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, united the terrorist group Jabhat Fatah al-Sham with a number of other extremist armed groups. The presence of these groups in Idlib and western Aleppo raises serious concerns for escalation of hostilities in those areas, which puts at risk the evacuees now living there. We don't need a crystal ball to say that. In northern Syria, the fight against ISIL has resulted in the group losing control over significant swaths of territory. But even as ISIL lose ground, let's not forget that there are multiple parties contesting the same territory, which further puts civilians at risk. The Commission continues to investigate allegations of chemical weapons by parties to the conflict. We recently documented the use of chlorine in our two last reports. We are now investigating, since the following day of this incident, the alleged use of sarin or sarin-like substance that killed almost 100 people in Khan Shaykhanoun. This is our mandate. We have the mandate to investigate any war crime or human rights violation, and we are also conscious that the majority of the victims of this conflict have not perished because of chemical weapons attacks, but by conventional arms. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the briefing, Commissioners. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. You've talked about accountability. Can you flesh that out? Were council members interested in how to hold parties accountable who are responsible for these attacks?
I think it's a good moment, and there were several questions about that, because, as you know, the famous triple I mechanism that will prepare a case is not the prosecutor's office, but we see this from our perspective as a progress. And I think that several member states are very much supportive of the mechanism.
Thank you. Ali Barada from France 24 and An-Nahar newspaper in Lebanon. My question is about the mentioned list by your honor. For several times you mentioned a list of possible criminals war criminals in Syria. Isn't it about time now to put it to the public, since you haven't been effective all the way along your work for several years now, and it's not working? What should you do for your commission to work?
We don't think that it has any advantage to put this in the public. Now we have this mechanism, and of course, if the mechanism will request us, we'll be happy to share with the mechanism, because they are the appropriated body to prepare the case against the individuals or the units that are in this list. But the list continues. We update the list. It continues confidential. Nobody believes, but the High Commissioner for Human Rights any High Commissioner saw the list. They are in a safe with 2 keys, very impressive. And then, when the mechanism will ask, we'll be ready.
Do you have that chain of command? Sorry for just whether do you have the chain of command for this list?
The chain of command for regular forces we have. The chain of command for the armored groups nobody has, and our investigation is very limited on this matter. But this will help.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pinheiro, and welcome, Karen. Going back to the whole issue of accountability, have you actually been working with any governments, any larger bodies, to talk about the kind of court that could actually be set up to prosecute alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity if the Security Council does not or cannot or is unable to actually refer a case to the International Criminal Court?
Well, you know, from the beginning, you've probably heard us say that many times from the 6 or 7 years ago when we started, that what has to happen with our information is it has to be turned over to we've been saying the ICC. Now we have the IIIM, the mechanism, who we think will take forward this sort of information. We're waiting to have some contact with them and to see what they think they will do and how they will work with us. But it gives us some hope that things will be moving forward towards some kind of prosecutory mechanism.
And the other level, yes, we cooperate in confidentiality with the judicial authorities of some countries that request information about a specific case. We are doing this for the last 2 years. Then we have some training about what we'll do with the mechanism.
You said you'd be investigating Khan Sheikhoun. Are you going to be requesting on-the-ground access going into the site of the attack?
You know, the idea would be to have access, but we have sent note verbal to the Syrian government, but we don't have...
Many times.
Many times.
To assist with this?
The General Assembly, the Security Council, the permanent members, the elected members, we ask the support of everybody. But I like to say that the fact that we don't have access, this doesn't mean that we are going through the investigation. We talk to the victims, to the nurse, to the medical expert, the experts, the satellite imagery, and of course WhatsApp, Skype, mobiles. That is, we have, and perhaps if you are interested, I can say where we are concerning this incident. Okay, it's very concentrated. You know that between 6:40 and 7 a.m. on April 4. A series of airstrikes impacted Khan Sheikhoun. This is a consensus. These airstrikes coincided with the release of a chemical agent, likely sarin or sarin-like nerve agent, as the OPCW has yesterday revealed, killing close to 100 people, including 20 children. A second round of airstrike impacted that location between 11 and 12 the same day, impacting a medical facility that's important that was treating victims of the air attack. The Commission continues to investigate all avenues and explore all theories, there are so many, regarding the release of this nerve agent and all other incidents in Khan Shaykhun on that date. We conducted and are conducting, as I said, interviews with eyewitnesses, victims, medical professionals, military and chemical weapons experts, while simultaneously collecting and analyzing photos, videos, satellite imagery, and other materials, which will all be thoroughly vetted for credibility and reliability prior to making our conclusions. Besides that, we send dozens of note verbal to the countries so that they can share intelligence reports or any information that they have about flight. Then the Commission doesn't work in splendid isolation. We work with all the bodies, like the GIM, that will go ahead with an independent investigation.
Thank you. Excuse me, I'm next. I'm next. Excuse me, Professor.
The bus bombing, we just, in our, I think in the speech to the Security Council, we just mentioned that, and we are investigating, but I don't have any specific.
But we think it's exaggerated.
Professor, thank you for the briefing. Evelyn Leopold. Are you saying when you investigated the April 4th strikes, have you come to the conclusion that the planes were flown by the Syrian military? And secondly, by mechanism, you're talking about the General Assembly process, yes?
No, we didn't have identified what Air Force was able to do these attacks. We just concluded that they have occurred.
You read the report that the U.S. intelligence put it that public, that everybody can read it. And
we read everything. But,
and what do you think about it?
But not yet. We are not in a position to reach a conclusion.
But you have an idea about it.
Excuse me?
You are not in the position to reveal what you think, but you have.
What I can review is just what I said. We are going to report this to the Human Rights Council. Okay, thank you. It was great to see you since 2015. We had not another report.
See you.